I'm Mike with BZ Fire Protection, and this is the fire sprinkler riser located in the basement of the building. The riser for the fire protection is from here to here. You're going to have 3 main control valves that turn on and off the water. The main control valve would be right here, and then you have 3 additional ones after that. In event if someone breaks a sprinkler head and you have water running and you know it's not a fire, then you would close this valve right here. Right now the indicator is showing it's open this way. If you know it's not a fire, then you would close this valve like this. So the indicator is like that. Would be a quarter turn from where it was. So you would shut the water off by doing that. And then you would come over here to one of the main drains. They are labeled main drain. There's 2 main drains, one on each of the 2 systems. This system is for the basement, and this system is for the standpipes and 1st through 4th floor. You would come to this valve. You're probably not going to know which valve to open, but you could open either of the 2 valves, and that's going to drain the water off the system. And you just take the valve and turn it, and the water will drain off the system for you. All right, so if you ever were to work on any of this stuff, everything's monitored. Each valve that you have here, and you have 2 flow switches right here and here. So before you turn any valve, you're going to have to call the monitoring company and put the system on test, which would be located upstairs and will probably be in another video on how to do all that stuff. But if water's running, I'm sure the fire alarm's already going off, so then at that point you would just drain it off like I showed you already. But if you were just to work on it, you'd have to call someone like BZ Fire Protection or a certified sprinkler fitter to come work on the system. You have the 2 flow switches which detect water flow. And these 2 flow switches, if they go off on water flow, and they will send the fire department to here in about 50 seconds after water flow. There's 2 systems here. They are both wet systems, and they do not require any maintenance or anything like that. You are required to have a yearly inspection, which is once a year, to come make sure the alarms and water flows and all that stuff. There's just city water pressure in all the pipes. There's water pressure in them at all times until a head were to go off. The heads are all heat activated individually, so if one goes off, they all do not go off. So at that, if in that area wherever there's a fire or heat, will activate the sprinkler individually when it reaches that temperature. Most of the sprinkler heads will activate at 155 degrees. So yeah, there's city water pressure, which will be about, if you look, you'll be able to tell, there's 2 gauges on each system. It'll be right around 60 pounds of water pressure on each system at all times. All right, there is a control valve on the north end and south end of the building that controls each standpipe right by the stairways before it turns and goes up to 4th floor. This valve is to remain open and locked at all times. All right, in the north and south stair tower is a standpipe, and on each floor there is a hose valve. the hose valves to remain closed at all times. It's just for the fire department's use in event of a fire. This is the fire department connection, which is located on the outside of the building. The fire department will hook up to this if a fire were to occur. The standpipe fire department connection is to remain clear and visible so the fire department can see it at all times. And right above the fire department connection will be the horn and strobe, which would be going off in the event of a fire.
I am Mitch with HMI. I've been the master plumber on the project here at Lakeside Manor. I'm just going to walk through some of the water service supply into the building, meters, and what else is going on in the mechanical room. So right here we have a ball valve on the 4-inch water service coming into the building. That of course wraps around, and then we have 2 compound meters in parallel. Each one of the ball valves, each one of these ball valves will shut down prior to the meter. There's a strainer in front of each meter, and also a ball valve on the back side of the meter. So if it did come time to replace a meter, it's easily done. We can segregate everything. As we come up past the meters, you'll see there's a pressure gauge, water pressure indicator of what's coming into the building, along with another main shutoff to the whole building. We go up, we branch over towards the west. This will be a shutoff for the lawn faucets going out to the 2 on the exterior of the front of the building and 2 on the exterior rear of the building. So that is about it for the meters here. We'll jump in over to water softeners next. All right, over here by the water softeners, our cold water supply is coming overhead from the meters in a 3-inch. Comes down from the ceiling right here. We go over to this 3-inch valve. As right now it is open, these softeners are in bypass. When they are in operation, this valve will be closed, and then all of these other 2-inch valves will be open. There's one right here on the inlet, one on the outlet, and you can see the outlet wraps around and ties in on the other side of that valve. So that's what feeds the rest of the building. Same thing here. This is the outlet of the water softener valve once again, and the inlet is right here. So it's feeding back through, pushing to the back side of that 3-inch valve, and then feeding the rest of the building with cold soft water. When these softeners are online, as you can see right there, there's a red indicator on each one. They will not both be online at the same time. One will be in service or online, while the other one will be offline until it's reached its peak demand for softening abilities, and then they will switch and while the other one regenerates. Water controller are the suppliers of these water softeners. Again, these are meters right here too on these softeners. I did not go over that, but that's metering the amount of water that's leaving these softeners. So softener drain, of course. If we look right back there, that's where it'll be draining when they're recharging. Okay, we're looking at the hot water heaters right here now. As they come in overhead, we are in a 3-inch copper line coming across, again, to another meter to meter how much water is coming into these water heaters. Over here, you'll see a 3/4-inch line goes to an expansion tank to take care of any air that's going through the system. We drop down. There's a valve on each side of this, equal lengths, so not one water heater is being starved from the other one, but those are our shutoffs. So we'd shut off the incoming water with those 2 ball valves right there. Leaving the water heater, we have 1.5 inches up here. That's a ball valve to shut off the outgoing water. Same thing on the other side, ball valve as well, and they each have a thermostat on them. So not only when these are operational, you will be able to adjust and see temperature on the screen, you can also see with that thermostat right there. These do tie back in together in that T, turn into a 2.5-inch line, which goes out to feed the rest of the building. And as we look over here, this 3-inch right here is where I started before. This is what comes in and feeds the water heaters here. So that valve right there is another shutoff, which will shut off everything before the strainer and the meter going to the water heaters. Okay. Now as we look at this T right here, which I kind of skipped over, this comes off the feed to the water heaters, and this is the hot water recirc line. It'll be coming from way up on 4th floor. We just simply tee right back in so that hot water recirc that's flowing back through the system ties in and goes back through the water heaters. Right up there is the flow control for that hot water recirc line. There's also many more throughout the building with the ball valve and the recirculating pump. Okay, we're looking at the rooftop unit here. As you can see, the power disconnect is right here, of course. If at any times you're changing filters or anything like that, you're gonna go in, shut your disconnect off, kill the power to the unit. Also, as we're out here, here's the valve to shut off the gas supply to the unit. Shut it off if the regulator needs to be serviced for any means or anything like that by a service tech. There's a union to break it. The regulator is now serviceable. We'll look inside the burner door here. Okay, inside this door we are looking at the burner. Gas valve is right there, along with the exhaust poking or protruding outwards from the exhaust, the combustion air motor. So that is what we're looking at in there. Also, as we look right here is where the gas and electrical come in. There's the condensate drain when that burner is operating. That's where the condensate will be leaving the unit. Okay, we'll look inside this panel here. So inside here is the disconnect for the motor and everything right there, which will always be on because we're disconnecting outside, so we'll, shouldn't have to worry too much about that. Our low voltage thermostat block there, compressor, smoke detector control for the unit itself, and all the other relays and components like that, which are more of a, if something was to happen in there, it would be a service tech that would be coming to look at that portion of it. But we'll open up this panel. So inside here is your air filters, your 2-inch thick pleated air filters. You can pull them out, check on them about once a month, slide them back in. When you're installing them, make sure you have the flow arrows the right direction. You want the flow going back in towards the unit. It'll be sucking in towards the unit, towards the fan. There's 2 of them. Slide them right in. And also back in there, the blower motor is back in there. It is concealed and it does not need to be greased. So the filters alone right here are the only real maintenance that needs to have an eye kept on it. Okay, so we pulled both filters out. We'll slide them in. Again, making sure your flow arrow is the right way, going back towards the unit. Slide them back in. And they are 20-inch by 20-inch, so it doesn't matter which way, as long as the flow arrow is right. And that takes care of that. So in this compartment, again, we do have the compressor contactor right there as well, along with the VFD that's controlling the motors. Anything along that means, which if something was to go wrong there, that's probably more of a service call issue there, along with the smoke detector up top as well, just like the other compartment. Okay, as we're looking at this compartment again, beyond your filters, here is your outdoor air damper, which will open by this actuator right here with the dial, which will be set by the test and balance. Other than that, there isn't a whole lot in this compartment at all. That's just going to bring in your fresh air. So. All right, we're looking at the north side of the rooftop unit here. As you see that right down there, the condensate drain, when the unit is in cooling, there will be water flowing through there. Now, some of the things to check when it's spring, or if it warms up sometime when it's cool outside, cool winter, you get a warmer day and the unit decides it needs to cool a little bit, that trap could be frozen. And if all of a sudden it doesn't, that's going to kick out when water stands in the pan inside the unit there. So that is something just as simple as you can take it, unfreeze it, but it is something to be aware of. Make sure that it is draining, it isn't backed up, it isn't plugged with debris or anything like that. After sitting for a long period of time, you can always take it out, blow it out, clean it out, and it'll keep the unit from sucking outdoor air through it. That's what the trap is for. So, all right, we're looking at the condenser coil on the rooftop unit here. Couple things on that for cleaning it out and just simple maintenance of it to keep debris out of there. Use simple, just plain old water, no chemicals or anything like that, give it a rinse with a hose gently, not to smash any fins or anything like that. There is a panel on the south side of the unit where you could get into the back side of the panel if needed to be, to help move some of that debris that's being sucked up into the coil. Okay, we're looking at the cooling coil here in the unit now. Same thing with cleaning of the coil. Just plain water, no chemicals. They are high efficiency coils, so, and just got to be careful with them not to smash any fins or anything like that. So, okay, the rooftop unit is serving each floor of the building with the supply air into the lounge area on each floor near the elevator, and a return on each side of the corridor hallway of each floor, with the average sensor on the north side of the building on each floor all the way down. The thermostat for this unit is situated in the office on first floor. The average sensors will then average out temperatures for each floor, send that to the thermostat, which in turn control this unit. So, okay, we are looking at the makeup air unit up here at Lakeside Manor. First thing, electrical disconnect right there before you open up any compartments, do any sorts of maintenance on the unit. Make sure you disconnect it again. Your gas is being fed from the roof itself. Comes up, here's your valve regulator, the 90 that drops down to a union. For some reason that regulator ever needs to be serviced, hit your valve, you can open up the union, then you have a serviceable regulator. As we look inside the cabinet here, we're looking into your gas pipe. There's your gas valve. Your gas service comes in, wraps around through the gas valve to the burner, as you can see right there. There is the combustion air motor. Also in this cabinet, this is what controls this makeup air unit. The settings are all on this controller. It will stay in this cabinet. As you can see, it's plugged up in the, if I can get my cord unwrapped around the exhaust there. It is plugged in the upper left-hand corner as we look at it here, and will always be in the unit. This is what maintains the set points of the air coming into this unit and the air leaving this unit going towards the building, which is all self-contained. If it does need to be changed at that point for climate and comfortability within the building, it would take help of a service tech to come down and do that. All right, then as we can see over there on the left side of this compartment too is the smoke detector for this makeup air unit as well. Looking at the makeup air unit again up here from the east side of it. And before I get too far along, we should just say that the makeup air unit will be running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to recover the air lost through the exhaust fans throughout the building and all the individual rooms. So this unit right here is supplying each individual room with 45 CFM air through a car damper into each unit. We'll open up this panel here. What this shows us in here is our two compressors, first of all, for the cooling side. I'm going to stand over here so the wind don't blow the door shut on it. And as we looked right there, there's our motor disconnect as well, breakers as well for it, our VFD in the upper left corner, which will be used by test and balance, and anything that needs to be changed up there would recommend using the services of a service tech to allow for that. As we look straight ahead for it, the supply air smoke detector sits right there. Now behind this panel, which I'll take off right now, we'll look at the blower motor. So there's 10 bolts that hold this on. There is enough slack in the electrical lines there, or if it needs to be taken completely out with a quick connect. Now if this does need to be disconnected for servicing of any purpose, make sure you're aware that it will set off probably the fire alarms within the building system. So make sure you're aware of that before pulling that apart. Now to service the motor up there, you can see it's kind of dark. There's two grease zerks right on the top of the motor. And that is all based on use of the motor itself, how often that is running. This is running 24/7. And it doesn't take very much grease, just enough to keep that going. It's harder on the motors themselves by over-greasing than under-greasing. So that is the only maintenance in that compartment. Then you would simply put your panel back in with the 10 bolts. All right, as we're looking at this compartment of the makeup air unit, we'll start off with going by the 2-inch pleated filters again. Again, these filters as well have the airflow arrow. There's 2 filters per half in here, so there's 4 filters total. And these are different sizes, 20 by 25, so 25 of course the horizontal way, 20 the vertical direction. They slide both in and out that way. Now if we were to clean that coil, again just like on the rooftop unit, you can access this coil by pulling the filters out, and each side can be accessed, and again they recommend no chemicals, just pure water. Then we're looking at our outdoor louver with the control motor for it as well, which will be used by test and balance, but the settings used there and set accordingly to what the building needs. And you can't see it, but the blower motor that we looked at where we removed that panel is actually sitting back inside of there. And as we're looking at this portion of the unit right here, here is the condensate drain for the cooling side of this unit. Again, if for some reason this is plugged, you can always take it off, clean it out, and make sure that it has an ability to run, because if this does stand full of water, it'll shut down. It's just always something good to check. Sometimes they do have the possibility to freeze and crack as well, and they won't hold water. So this is the outdoor air damper on the makeup air unit. As you can see, it's in closed position right now. All right, we're looking at the condenser coil up here on the makeup air unit, of course. If it does need to be accessed to be clean, use water, of course, like I've stated before. They actually do have a caution symbol on these units with the recommended cleaning method is to use water only. And of course, once again, gently clean them. Try to avoid any smashing of any of the coil fins or anything like that.
Hi, it's Travis with WW Communications. Going to go over the fire alarm control system here. We have the main control box is here. This is where most of the action happens. So if the main keypad is here, there's AC power, fire alarm, supervisory, alarm silence, and trouble. Whatever device goes off, it'll flash with the appropriate light. So if we have a fire alarm, say a smoke detector goes off, the red fire alarm light will turn on, and it'll say on the screen, office management smoke detector, and it'll say a number on here, a 1D something. That number is also labeled on the smoke detector itself. So if I put a smoke detector in trouble like this, how it says 1D012, if I take that smoke head off, after about 20 seconds or so, the fire alarm system will go into trouble, showing that that detector is missing or in trouble state, meaning it's not right. You'll hear a tone at the fire panel. There it goes, trouble, smoke, management office smoke detector. Noted it says 012 and the trouble light's flashing. So to acknowledge that, you just hit acknowledge. That'll stop the beeping. That gives you, now you have time to check it out yourself, see if it's something that's just a smoke detector is loose, or if you need to give us a call, you can give us a call, and we can come out and fix it. Most of the troubles, if it's not blatantly obvious, like a low battery or an AC power, just give us a call and we can walk you through on what to do. Once the trouble is repaired, so if I take the smoke detector and put it back on the base head, turn it back on, the trouble will clear by itself and the panel will do an automatic reset. So this takes some time, about 20 seconds or so, that's normal. After that, the panel should just go back to saying system all normal. If there's ever an actual fire alarm going off, say a smoke detector goes off, it'll flash again, fire alarm. It'll say fire alarm, smoke detector, where it is, and then the address number. That address number is labeled on all the smokes. So you should be able to identify it then. If it's going off, first thing you want to do is hit acknowledge. Once you know that it's a false alarm, you've investigated it and the building is emptied out, you've investigated, found it's a false alarm, then you can hit alarm silence. That'll silence the horns, make all the loud horns stop, and also silence it here as well. Once you've figured out what the problem was, fixed the problem, there's a dirty smoke or whatever, once that's been fixed, then we can go ahead and hit the reset button, and that'll reset the system. It drops power to all the smoke detectors and powers it back up. That's what we call a reset. And the system should go back to normal once that's complete. Again, that takes about 20 to 30 seconds. If you ever need to do a fire drill, you have a planned fire drill, the only thing you have to do is press and hold this drill button for 2 seconds. It'll set off all the horns in the building. You can do your evacuation, and then after everybody's evacuated, you want to turn it off, you just simply hit alarm silence and then reset. And that resets the system. So the system will be monitored. If you're ever doing any work on the system, say you're having somebody come in to work on on any of the systems, say the fire dampers or the sprinkler system is a good example. We've got a number that's labeled on here, monitoring account number, and then the phone number. So you'd want to give this phone number a call. Say you're with Lakeside Manor and give them this account number and say that you want to put the system on test for a set amount of time or until a certain time is expired. Then they will be able to help you out with that. There's no password or anything, just the account number and Lakeside Manor. That's really it. The only other thing we have is these power supply down here, which is only extra power for all the fire alarm horns because there's a lot of horns in the building. It's pretty much for us service technicians. There's not a lot of user information. There is some lights down in here on the bottom. If this would go into trouble, that would flash, and that if you call us, we can tell you what that means over the phone, the different flashes and codes. So if one of the batteries goes low, that would be that type of indication. Both these batteries here and in the main panel last about 4 years. So in about 2021 or so is when they first need to be replaced. The only other thing is in the main entryway is a fire alarm renunciator. We can bring you over there, and that is just a kind of simplified version of this. I can go over that with you too and make sure that that's understood. All right, this is the fire alarm renunciator. It's a real simplified version of the fire panel. The screen works just the same as the screen in the main panel. It'll display the same thing. It's the same lighted lettering here that'll light up with the same alarm. It has buttons here and then a keypad here. The buttons are all disabled. Normally it's in a state with no key. It says off and on. So if we put the key in and turn it to on, we get a little unlock symbol on the keypad that tells us that these buttons are now active. Now we can press the buttons and scroll through the different alarms if there's multiple alarms. Silence, reset, and then if need be, you can do a fire drill from here as well. So this will, if you forget this key is turned on, the system will beep after about 3 or 4 minutes saying the key is still on, you need to turn it back off so that it doesn't get forgotten. We put it back to off, the unlock symbol goes away, and this can go away. This key is the same key that's in the fire panel. We'll leave some spare keys in the fire panel that you guys can use or put in lock boxes, whatever. And that's it.